What's the biggest WTF instant karma that hit a rich kid showing off their privilege? Story 1. I worked at a mid-sized marketing agency that occasionally took on interns from important clients. Enter Tyler. Tyler walked in late on day 1 wearing a Rolex and a sweater with his prep school crest on it. He shook the creative director's hand and said, dead serious, "My dad's hedge fund keeps the lights on here, so if we could fast-track me to strategy, that'd be great." We all laughed because we thought it was a joke. It wasn't. He'd wander around supervising, leaning over designers' shoulders and saying stuff like, "You don't have to try so hard. My last name is basically job security for everyone in this room." He bragged about his Tesla, his starter condo, and how intern pay is just tip money for me anyway. I mostly ignored him until he messed with one of our juniors, Maria. She's insanely talented but quiet, and she picks up night shifts at a restaurant to support her siblings. Tyler sees her sketching during lunch and goes, "Wow, you must really love the starving artist lifestyle. Don't worry, people like me need people like you." You could feel the air leave the room. Later that day, he's holding court in the break room ranting about how regulation is for poor people who can't hire lawyers, while CNBC is playing on mute behind him. Suddenly, our receptionist runs in. Guys, you should probably turn that up." On screen is a live segment about an SEC raid. The logo? His dad's hedge fund. They're showing footage of agents hauling out boxes, headlines screaming about fraud, frozen assets, investor lawsuits. The anchor actually says, "This fund catered to ultra-wealthy families and their kids, known for their extravagant lifestyles." Everyone slowly turns to look at Tyler. His face drains. He fumbles for his phone, swearing under his breath. 30 seconds later, security badges across the company ping. Someone from HR appears at the break room door and says, "Tyler, could you come with me, please?" He tries to pull rank. "My dad," the HR manager just says, "We're aware. Your internship is terminated effective immediately." The best part? As he's grabbing his stuff, he snarls at Maria. "You think this means you're better than me?" Maria just lifts her phone and shows him his dad's mugshot already trending on Twitter with a caption. "Rich kid hedge fund finally gets humbled." She looks him dead in the eye and says, "No, I've always been better than you. You're just seeing it now." Story 2. I grew up lower middle class, but my mom's sister married very, very rich. Think custom closet just for handbags, rich. When Grandma turned 85, there was a big family dinner at my aunt's mansion. I was invited mostly as a pity add-on because Grandma liked me. My cousin Blake, their only son, was one of those rich kids who thinks humble is a brand, not a trait. He'd post candid photos with charity kids for clout and complain that his allowance barely covers gas for his AMG. So we get to the dinner. The table is stupidly long, like some medieval banquet. I'm seated near the housekeeper's daughter, Anna, who I'd met a few times. She's my age, working her way through community college. Super sweet, but obviously aware she's the helps kid in that house. Blake strolls in late wearing designer everything, announces he's only here because Grandma's lawyer said attendance matters, and then loudly orders the staff around like they're NPCs. At one point, he notices Anna quietly eating and says, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh, they let the staff kids eat with us now? Cute. Guess Grandma's feeling charitable." The room goes silent. Anna goes red and starts to stand up. Before she can leave, Grandma slams her fork down. "Sit," she tells Anna. Then to Blake, "You too. Sit and shut up." After dessert, Grandma's lawyer appears with a folder. Apparently, she decided to read the will aloud while everyone was there. So there are no surprises. You could practically see Blake rubbing his hands together. It starts predictably. Small bequests, some jewelry, donations. Then the lawyer reads, "To my grandson Blake, who has always been well provided for, I leave the sum of $1, so he knows exactly how much his respect was worth to me." You could hear his soul leave his body. Blake actually laughs and goes, "Okay, funny joke, Grandma." The lawyer clears his throat. It's not a joke. The remainder of her estate, including this property, investment accounts, and personal effects, will be placed in a trust. Blake leans forward again, relieved, until the lawyer finishes, to be managed for the benefit of Ana Morales and used at her discretion for education, housing, and whatever else she deems fit. Effective immediately. The housekeeper drops her tray. My aunt starts screaming. Blake is literally pointing at Anna going, "She's the maid's daughter. This is insane. I'm family." Grandma looks right at him and says, "Family isn't about blood. It's about how you treat people. Anna has shown more kindness in this house than you ever have." Anna is frozen, crying, Mum whispering, "No, no, this can't be real." And Grandma just takes her hand and kisses it. "Enjoy your dollar, Blake. Grandma says. Maybe you can use it to tip the staff you've been stepping on. Story 3. I'm the new wife. I married Mark 3 years after his divorce from Lily, a woman born into money. Old money. Country club, debutante ball, monogram on your underwear money. From the day I met her, she treated me like I was a waitress who'd accidentally wandered into her VIP section. She'd say things like, "Oh, you work a normal job? That must be exhausting," while leaning on the BMW her dad bought her for surviving the divorce. She used her family's lawyers to drag out every custody negotiation. She'd threaten to bury Mark in court if he didn't agree to her demands. She'd brag about how judges golfed with her dad. The kids, though, they just wanted a normal life. Homework, video games at our apartment, pizza nights. Every time they went back to her penthouse, they'd come home with new clothes but bigger anxiety. Eventually, Mark filed for shared custody again. There was new stuff. Ignored visitation schedules, missed school events, the kids constantly being left with nannies. Court day comes. Lily shows up in a white designer suit, flanked by 2 lawyers and her father. She gives me a once-over and smirks like she's already won. She takes the stand and turns on this shaky voice, telling the judge she's terrified the kids aren't safe with Mark, that his cramped rental is unstable, that I am some opportunist who just wants his child support money. Her lawyer asks, "How would you describe your co-parenting?" She tilts her head. "I've done everything I can to keep the kids' lifestyle consistent. They're used to a certain level of comfort." Right then, her son, 11, starts shifting in his seat next to the guardian ad litem. He's been clutching his iPad the whole time. The judge asks if the kids want to say anything. Usually they don't, but our boy raises his hand. "Your Honor, can I show you something?" The courtroom gets very quiet. The judge nods. The guardian ad litem walks over as he navigates to a folder on the iPad. It's full of screen recordings, messages, voice notes. Lily in full meltdown mode. Texts telling him and his sister exactly what to say about Dad. Voice notes saying, "If you tell the judge you don't feel safe with your father, we can go to Paris this summer." Another that literally says, "Do you want your stupid little Xbox or do you want a life? Then you say what I told you." The judge's face goes hard. Lily starts whisper screaming, "Sweetie, those were private. Give that back right now." The judge snaps, "Ms. Davenport, sit down." Our boy looks at the judge and says, voice shaking, "I just want to live where I'm not a prop." Her entire "I'm the stable rich mom" act disintegrates in seconds. In the ruling, the judge not only grants Mark primary custody, but also orders Lily to mandatory therapy and parenting classes, plus supervised visitation for a while. Outside the courtroom, she storms up to me, red-faced. "This isn't over. My father will appeal. You don't understand who you're dealing with." I looked at her father standing helplessly behind her, and then at her kids hugging their dad. "You're right," I said. "We're dealing with 2 kids who finally had more power than your money." And for the first time since I'd met her, she had nothing to say. Story 4. My best friend from college, Jess, married into serious money. Her fiancé, Brandon, was the stereotypical rich kid. Trust fund, ski house, networking trips in Ibiza. By the time they got engaged, the wedding had a brand. Custom logo, mood board, special hashtag, Yakuris, Bran and Jess blessed. There were sponsorship deals, influencer collaborations, a signature cocktail named after his family's company. Brandon insisted on a black tie, no kids, no cheap fabrics policy. He sent an email to his own cousin saying, "If you can't afford a proper tux, maybe sit this one out." I was a bridesmaid, so I got a front row seat to the crazy. About 2 weeks before the wedding, Jess called me sobbing. Someone had DM'd her screenshots of Brandon on a dating app, matching with women in cities he'd been on business in. When she confronted him, he laughed and said, "Babe, it's just for fun. You think people like us do monogamy literally? We do it for optics." For a second, she considered canceling everything, but his family threatened to sue her for breach of contract on the venue and sponsorships. Her own parents begged her not to embarrass everyone. So she went quiet. Too quiet. Day of the wedding, everything looks like a magazine shoot. String quartet, flower tunnel, brand photographer sweeping around for candid shots. Brandon is in his element, making toasts about uniting 2 dynasties, thanking the luxury brands tagging them. After dinner, it's time for the surprise video his younger brother Liam supposedly made. Brandon gives this smarmy speech about the journey that led us here, and how grateful he is for the woman who completes his image. I mean, life. Lights dim. Video starts. It looks normal at first. Childhood photos, college clips, travel footage. Then it cuts to screen recordings of Brandon's phone, dating app bios, flirty DMs, A video of him in a hotel room telling some girl, "Nah, the wedding's basically for my parents' PR. I'll still be traveling solo, don't worry." Someone in the crowd gasps. People start pulling out their phones. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion. Brandon storms over to the tech booth yelling, "Wrong file! Wrong file!" Jess is standing there, perfectly still, bouquet in hand. The final slide comes up. A screenshot of their wedding hashtag, Walker Bran and Jess blessed, with Jess's text over it. "Blessed to have found out before I signed the papers." Music cuts. Lights come up. Jess steps up to the mic, voice steady. "This video was scheduled days ago," she says. "Brandon, your lawyers were very clear I'd ruin you financially if I canceled the event. So I didn't." She holds up her left hand. "The diamond is gone. I just decided to change what we were celebrating." Then she turns to the guests. "All the vendors have been paid in full. The bar is open. The DJ is staying. Please enjoy the party. Consider it your reward for sitting through his speeches." She walks down the aisle, away from him. Bridesmaids flanking her like a security detail. His father is yelling, his mother is crying about public humiliation, and the sponsor's social media manager is having a visible stroke. Liam, the brother, catches up to Jess outside and goes, "I loaded the wrong file by accident." She gives him a look. He shrugs. "Rich kid karma. He's been bullying me with dad's money since I was 5. Figured it was time someone hit him where it hurt." His image. Then he picks up a champagne bottle and hands it to her. "Come on," he says. "Let's go celebrate the best almost wedding I've ever been to." Story 5. I live in a pretty average suburban neighborhood that happens to border one gated community full of rich families. Their kids drive cars worth more than our houses. One of them, Zach, was 19 with a bright green Lamborghini his parents bought, so he'd stop borrowing the yacht, according to a proud Instagram caption. He'd roar through our streets blasting music at 2 a.m., revving at stop signs, filming TikToks like, "POV, you're poor, and hear me drive by." He'd park in the disabled space by the park using his mom's placard, despite being fully able-bodied. We complained to the HOA and the cops a bunch, but nothing stuck. His parents would smooth it over with donations or "he's just a kid" speeches. Then one afternoon, a school bus dropped off kids at the park. There's a little boy in our neighborhood, Mateo, who uses a wheelchair. His mom, Carla, is one of those unflappable, kind people who always brings extra snacks for everyone's kids. The disabled spot by the ramp is, of course, occupied by the green Lambo. Zach is sitting on the hood taking selfies with 2 girls, loudly joking, "If the handicapped want it, they can buy me a better car." Carla pulls up, sees there's nowhere close to unload, and ends up parking further down. As she's lowering the ramp, Mateo's chair hits a crack and tips just enough that he gets scared and starts crying. She's clearly stressed, trying to soothe him, reload him, and move closer. Zach actually yells, "Hey, can you not scratch my car with your equipment?" Every parent at the park freezes. One of the moms, Jen, already had her phone out because she'd been recording her own kid. Without missing a beat, she swings the camera towards Zach and just keeps filming. Carla looks at him, shaking, and says, "You're in the disabled spot. My son needs that ramp." He smirks. "Then maybe your son should have leveled up. Survival of the fittest, right?" You could feel something shift. Jen posts the video to the neighborhood Facebook group with the caption, "Rich kid blocks disabled spot, mocks disabled child. Parents, is this who you're raising?" The video explodes. People share it to local groups, then city groups. Someone tags the luxury dealership that posted Zach's car on their page. Another tags his mom's real estate business and his dad's law firm. By evening, the video has gone fully viral. Local news, then national outlets picking it up as "entitled teen harasses disabled child." Next day, there's a tow truck in front of the gated community. Guess which car gets loaded up, in full view of all the neighbors' Ring cameras? Zach is on the lawn in gym shorts screaming at his dad, "Do something! Legally stop this!" His dad, the big shot lawyer, is pale. Between the bad press, threats to boycott his firm, and the ADA complaints being filed, he's clearly in damage control mode. A week later, the Lambo is gone for good. Word gets around, because Facebook moms know everything, that they sold it to help cover a settlement and donations to disability charities the PR firm recommended. The real kicker? At the next HOA meeting, Zach had to stand up and read a written apology to Carla and Mateo, then answer questions from the parents whose kids he scared with his driving. When someone asked what car he drove now, he muttered, "A bike." Carla, bless her, just smiled and said, "Perfect. Maybe you'll finally learn how it feels to move on your own power instead of your parents." Story 6. I went to a fancy private university on a full need-based scholarship. My roommate's sophomore year was Chase, legacy, third generation, his last name on 2 buildings. He called me his poverty outreach project the first week, so you get the vibe. He'd brag nonstop about his life. The ski house, the starter portfolio his grandfather gave him, the fact that he'd never touched a washing machine and never will. His mom literally sent their housekeeper twice a month to pick up his dirty clothes from our dorm and bring back neatly folded bundles. One Sunday, the housekeeper got stuck in traffic and texted she'd be late. Chase had a date with some sorority girl and freaked out because his good shirt wasn't clean. He looked at me, saw I was doing laundry, and said, "Hey man, be a bro. Toss my stuff in with yours. I'll Venmo you like 100 or something. That's a lot to you, right?" I told him no. I had exactly enough detergent and quarters for my own load, and also, I'm not his unpaid maid. He rolled his eyes, grabbed his overflowing hamper, and stomped down to the laundry room muttering about ungrateful scholarship kids. 20 minutes later, fire alarms start blaring. We all shuffle outside in pajamas. Campus security and actual firefighters show up. Smoke is coming out of the basement laundry room door. Nobody's panicking because it's clearly not a huge fire, but still, everyone's confused. Turns out Chase had never used a washer in his life and decided all those little pods on top of the machines were free samples. He stuffed 6 into one load to make it extra clean, plus poured half a bottle of fabric softener into the bleach slot. The machine basically had a soap aneurysm. Suds everywhere, into the electrical panel, shorted a circuit. Smoke, alarms, the whole building evacuated. In the crowd, Dean of Students shows up, annoyed, hair still wet like she was in the shower. She asks security what happened. The RA points directly at Chase, who is standing there in Gucci slides and a robe, clutching his hamper like a lifeboat. The dean looks at him and then at the foam pouring out the open laundry room door. "Mr. Whitaker, is that your mess?" He tries to laugh it off. "Just a misunderstanding. I'm sure maintenance can—" She cuts him off. "You triggered the fire system and damaged university property because you refused to read basic instructions on a washing machine?" He shrugs. "I'll have my dad send a check." That's when she smiles in this very dangerous way. "Actually, no. Given the disruption, you'll be covering damages through community service hours. Starting with residence life. You'll be the building's laundry aide until the end of the semester. Training starts tomorrow. You'll wash, dry, and fold for every student who signs up." Someone in the crowd actually cheered. By the end of the week, there was a line down the hall. People adding their clothes just to watch the legacy kid cart hampers around. He complained nonstop at first, then finally shut up when someone asked, "So, how much does your last name help in sorting delicates?" The punchline? His mom showed up one afternoon, furious, demanding to know why her son was being punished like a servant. The dean calmly handed her a sign-up sheet. "If he'd learned this at home," she said, "he wouldn't be learning it here." Story 7. I'm a public defender, which means I spend a lot of time with people who can't afford lawyers, and occasionally staring across the aisle at kids whose parents are lawyers, or doctors, or CEOs who think money is a get-out-of-jail-free card. Enter Logan. Logan was 20, from a very wealthy family. Think private driver, ski trips, Instagram full of bottle service posts. One night he blew through a red light in his dad's imported sports car and clipped a guy on a motorcycle. The biker broke his leg in 3 places. Witnesses said Logan got out, saw the damage, said, "My father will sort this," got back in the car and left. He was charged with felony hit and run. His family hired the most expensive defense attorney in the city. The guy shows up in a suit that probably cost my monthly rent and immediately starts trying to bully the DA into a plea that would keep Logan's record clean. He's a good kid. He volunteers. He has a future. Meanwhile, my client that day was the motorcyclist. Blue collar, 2 kids, out of work because of the injury. He's sitting in a wheelchair in the hallway while Logan struts by in designer everything, loudly complaining, "This is a waste of everyone's time. Dad will make it go away." Day of the preliminary hearing, Logan shows up in the jacket. You know the type. Custom leather, his initials embroidered on the sleeve, limited edition collab with some streetwear brand. He'd posted about it all over Instagram. One of one. "If you see this out, it's me." The prosecution's case was okay, but not amazing. Nighttime, partial plates, conflicting witness descriptions. The defense was arguing it was mistaken identity and pushing hard for dismissal. Then the DA calls a new witness, a woman who'd been riding in an Uber behind the crash. She's nervous on the stand, says she can't be 100% sure about the driver's face. The defense smirks. Then the DA asks, "But there was something else you mentioned in your statement. Something distinctive?" She nods. "The jacket. The driver was wearing this black jacket with these white designs on the sleeves and letters, kind of shiny." I remember because my teenage son follows fashion drops and was freaking out saying, "That's that stupid rich kid Logan from Instagram. He's always showing that jacket off." The DA turns, slowly, to look at Logan. "Would you describe the jacket you saw as similar to the one the defendant is wearing right now?" The entire courtroom swivels to stare. It is literally identical. It is the same jacket, same embroidered initials, same reflective pattern. The witness nods. "Yeah, that's the one." The defense attorney goes pale. He whispers frantically to Logan, who hisses back, "It's my look. I can't just not wear it." The judge raises an eyebrow. "Counselor, do you still wish to argue mistaken identity?" They end up scrambling into a plea. No more talk of dismissal. Logan gets a felony conviction, license suspension, restitution, community service, the works. His dad is furious, but there's not much to be done when your kid branded himself like a walking admission of guilt. As we're leaving, my client looks at me and says, "So he bragged so hard on the internet. He basically testified against himself?" "Pretty much," I said. He grinned, adjusting the cast on his leg. "Guess that jacket really is one of a kind." Story 8. I used to work at a high-end clothing boutique in a downtown shopping district. We sold designer stuff that cost more than my whole paycheck, and most of the clientele were rich folks playing dress-up. The owner's daughter, Brielle, worked there for fun. She was in her early 20s, all filler and filters, and she treated the job like a live-in Instagram set. She'd swan around in merchandise she hadn't paid for, post TikToks from the fitting rooms, and bark at us to steam things for her content. Her favorite hobby was sizing customers up by their shoes. If you came in wearing anything less than $300 on your feet, she'd assume you were broke and ignore you. She called regular folks mall people. One slow Tuesday, this middle-aged woman walks in. Plain flats, mom jeans, oversized cardigan. I go to greet her, but Brielle steps in front of me, plastering on her customer service smile. "Hi, just so you know, these are luxury pieces," she says, slow like the woman doesn't speak English. "If you're just browsing, we ask that you don't touch the display items." The woman blinks. "I'm okay, thanks. I was interested in that blazer in the window." Brielle actually laughs. "That one is custom order only and starts at 4 digits. But we do have some accessories by the register that might be more in your budget." My jaw hit the floor. I start to step in, but the woman just nods, quietly, and starts looking at a rack anyway. Brielle rolls her eyes at me like, "Can you believe this?" and disappears to the back to film a haul video. 10 minutes later, another woman walks in. Sharper outfit, but same kind of age and vibe. She heads straight to the first lady and they chat quietly while going through the racks together. Weird thing is, they're looking at details. Fabric tags, stitching, linings. Taking photos. Not shopping like normal customers. About 20 minutes after that, a man in a suit walks in holding a clipboard. He asks for the manager. Our manager is off that day, so it falls to Brielle, who has appointed herself acting manager whenever her mom isn't there. He introduces himself and then gestures to the two women. "We're here for the scheduled brand audit, mystery shop component, quality control, training review." As per the contract, Brielle goes white. One of the women reaches into her cardigan and pulls out a business card. It's the logo of our biggest designer brand. Like, the one entire wall of the store is dedicated to. "I lead retail partnerships for the label," she says mildly. "I was the browsing customer you tried to steer away from the main floor." The other woman smiles. "And I'm the one who watched you tell your employee not to waste time on mall people." While on camera, she points to the discreet little button on the clipboard. They sit us all down, review footage from the store cameras and the hidden one the second woman had on her lapel. They note the lack of basic training, the way Brielle wore unpaid merchandise, the way she treated customers. At the end, the rep says, "We take brand representation very seriously. We'll be recommending that your license not be renewed next season." That license is like 60% of the store's revenue. Brielle starts crying, sputtering, "You can't do that. This is my store. My mother will..." The suit cuts in, looking at me and the other regular staff. "For what it's worth, the rest of you were professional. If the store closes and you'd like to apply directly with us, here's my card." 2 months later, the boutique shut its doors. The owner blamed market conditions, but everybody in the district knew. I ended up getting a job at the designer's flagship store across town. First week on the new job, I saw Brielle walk past the window, weighed down with shopping bags from cheaper chain stores. She caught my eye, paused, and then looked up at the 6-foot poster over my head. Me, from the staff photo shoot. In the blazer she told that nobody she couldn't afford to touch. Story 9. I teach at an elite private high school. Think tuition higher than my salary? Kids getting cars for their 16th instead of cakes. To survive, I also run the Model UN Club. One of our longtime members, Noah is a scholarship student. Brilliant, quiet, works nights at his parents' restaurant. He wears the same worn-out sneakers every day and is constantly apologizing when he can't make weekend meetings because he's bussing tables. Then there's Sienna. Her dad's on the board, her mom runs the gala. She walks around with a metal Amex like it's an ID badge. To her credit, she's smart, but also the kind of kid who complains that minimum wage is basically charity. We were prepping for a big out-of-state conference, the kind where colleges scout. I fought to get funding so we could bring a few scholarship kids, and the school reluctantly agreed. I made a group chat with the traveling team, including Sienna and Noah. It was supposed to be for logistics, packing lists, curfew reminders, that kind of thing. One night I'm grading when my phone starts pinging like crazy. The chat is blowing up. Sienna. Guys, be real. Are we sure bringing certain people to this conference is a good idea? Optics matter. Someone asks what she means. She replies, like Model UN is supposed to be for future leaders, not people who will be serving canapes at alum events. Scholarships are cute, but this isn't charity work. A couple of her friends send laughing emojis. Then, I just don't want colleges thinking our team is lower tier. My dad says networks matter more than resumes. No offense to Noah. I'm sure he's good at, logistics. Then, the kicker. She screenshots the scholarship list I'd printed and left in the MUN folder, circled his name, which meant she'd gone through my stuff. Under it, she wrote, "Tell me I'm wrong." My stomach dropped. I was about to shut it down when I noticed something. At the top of the chat, it said, "You changed the group name to MUN Travel Team, inclusive admin." The admin it was including the head of school, who I'd added that afternoon because she wanted to keep an eye on student communications during trips after a previous incident. She'd been silent in the chat the whole time, until now. A new message appeared. Dr. Lang. Sienna, thank you for sharing your perspective so candidly. I'd like everyone to know this conversation has been archived. Dead silence. Then, Dr. Lang. Effective immediately, Sienna will not be traveling with the team. Her spot will be given to an alternate. Additionally, we will be reviewing access and privacy training for all student leaders. Noah, please see me tomorrow about your recommendation letter. Another ping. Dr. Lang, privately, to me and Noah, but she accidentally sent it to the whole group before deleting. I am increasing the travel grant, so cost is not a barrier for any scholarship students this year. The next morning, Sienna's parents showed up in the office, furious, threatening to pull donations. Dr. Lang listened, very calm, and then said loud enough for the waiting room to hear, "Your daughter didn't lose her spot because you're rich. She lost it because she forgot that leadership is earned, not bought." After they left, Noah came to my classroom, eyes wide. "I didn't even say anything," he said. "I was just reading." "You didn't have to," I told him. "You just had to be exactly who you are long enough for her to show everyone exactly who she is." Story 10. I manage a mid-range apartment building in a gentrifying city neighborhood. Half my tenants are long-timers on rent control. The other half are young professionals who saw a TikTok about up-and-coming vibes and moved in. A few years ago, the developer sold the penthouse and top floor as luxury condos to separate owners, while the rest of the building stayed rentals. That's how we got Ethan. Ethan is 24. Parents bought him the penthouse as a graduation present so he could build equity. He drives a ridiculous sports car, throws rooftop parties on weeknights, and talks to me like I'm his personal concierge. His favorite target, though, was Mrs. Alvarez on the third floor. She's in her 70s, been in the building since before I was born. She feeds all the kids in the hallway, grows tomatoes on her balcony, and plays old boleros on a small radio while she cooks. One day, Ethan storms into my office, sunglasses on indoors. "You need to do something about the noise," he says. "The lady on 3 is playing ethnic music again. I work from home. I have calls." I remind him that the lease allows reasonable daytime noise, and that he, of all people, is on thin ice with the complaints I get about his bass at 2 a.m. He sneers. "I own my place. I have rights. She's rent control. She should be grateful we're upgrading the neighborhood." He starts sending daily emails CCing the condo board, complaining about her cooking smells, her loud grandchildren, the clutter of her plants on the balcony. He even took a photo of her drying laundry inside and sent it as evidence of blight. Then he took it further. He reached out to the developer about pressure testing the older tenants. Basically, he wanted them to offer buyouts to people like Mrs. Alvarez until they left. What he didn't realize is that the developer had sold their stake, and the new majority owner of the building was some investment group no one had met yet. We found out at the annual condo renter meeting. The new owner's rep was coming to introduce their vision. Everyone crams into the multi-purpose room. Renters on one side, condo owners on the other. Ethan walks in late, loudly, holding a latte, and immediately starts whispering about how we should really modernize the demographic. The new owner's rep walks in. It's a woman in her 40s, nice suit, no flash. She looks familiar. Mrs. Alvarez gasps, hand over her mouth, eyes filling with tears. Lucia? She whispers. The rep turns, sees her, and just beams. They cross the room and hug like they haven't seen each other in years. Turns out the investment group that bought the building? It's a small firm co-founded by Mrs. Alvarez's daughter. The same daughter Ethan had called those noisy brats in a complaint from months ago. They sit at the front. Lucia clears her throat. First, I want to say this building is important to my family. I grew up here. That balcony, she nods at Mrs. Alvarez, is where my mother grew herbs to stretch our meals when we had nothing. She talks about plans to restore the facade, improve the elevators, update wiring, without displacing existing tenants. In fact, they're applying for grants to keep rent-controlled units safe. Then she opens the floor for questions. Ethan's hand shoots up. Yeah, hi. As an owner, I have concerns about the aesthetic of some long-term tenants. For property values. For instance, Lucia interrupts. Are you the resident in PH1 who's been filing complaints about my mother's radio and her plants? The room goes dead silent. His mouth opens and closes. I wasn't told she was your... You weren't owed that information, she says crisply. What you were told, repeatedly, is that this is a mixed-income building and everyone deserves respect. She flips open a folder. Per condo bylaws, repeated frivolous complaints, misuse of management resources, and violation of noise ordinances are grounds for fines. Also, rooftop parties past designated hours? Grounds for suspension of roof access. She looks up, meeting his eyes. So here's what's happening. Effective immediately, your access to the rooftop is revoked for 6 months. Additionally, fines for your past violations will be assessed and used to upgrade soundproofing for the units below you, including my mother's. Someone snorts. Then a few more people chuckle. Even some of the other condo owners. Ethan sputters about calling his lawyer, about discrimination against success. Lucia just smiles. The same tired, knowing smile I've seen on Mrs. Alvarez after decades of nonsense. You're not being punished for being successful, Ethan, she says. You're being held accountable for being a bad neighbor. After the meeting, I helped Mrs. Alvarez carry a box of pastries she'd brought just in case. She patted my hand and nodded toward the ceiling. Rich boys come and go, she said. Walls remember who actually lives here. Story 11. I went to one of those old money boarding schools where half the dorm has a last name you've seen on buildings. My roommate junior year was Preston, whose grandfather literally had his portrait in the dining hall. Preston's whole personality was, rules are for the scholarship kids. Fire drills? He'd ironically live-stream them with captions like, another poor people compliance ritual, LOL. He'd complain about being woken up while our disabled classmate, Jonah, took forever to get down the ramp in his chair. One night after a drill, Preston comes back fuming. This is ridiculous, he says. If there were a real fire, I'd just use the attic stairs, get out on the roof, call a helicopter. Why are we waiting for the slow lane? By slow lane, he meant Jonah and the stair lift. A week later, I catch him in the hallway messing with the panel for the lift. Dude, stop, I tell him. That's literally life safety equipment. He laughs. Relax. I'm just killing the beeping so we can have a party up there without the RA hearing it. I'll turn it back on. Spoiler, he didn't. 2 nights later, around 2 a.m., I wake up to real alarms. Smoke smell, kids shouting. There's a legit electrical fire in the laundry room downstairs. We line up to evacuate. RA is counting heads. Jonah's at the lift button. Nothing. Dead. He stays weirdly calm. I'll wait for staff. Get out, he tells us. Preston panics. I'm not dying in a dorm fire, he says. Bolts for the back staircase to his precious attic route. Except the fire is in that direction. 10 minutes later, we're outside, freezing, watching smoke pour out of the back windows. Fire trucks, chaos, headmaster in a bathrobe. They're doing a head count and we're missing 2, Jonah and Preston. Then a firefighter appears at the front door carrying someone on his back and another on a chair. Guess who's who? Turns out Jonah hit the call button for campus security when the lift failed. Staff got to him first, saw Preston choking in the back corridor, and basically used Jonah's chair as a rolling battering ram to get both of them out through the front. Next day, maintenance reviews the logs, finds the lift was manually disabled. Cameras show Preston at the panel. Honor Council convenes. Expulsion on the table. What gets me isn't the discipline, though. It's when they ask Jonah if he has anything to say. He looks at Preston, still shaking, and says quietly, "I'm really glad you didn't die because you thought your life moved faster than mine." Preston left that week. The stair lift got a bright red sign, "Do not disable. Someone else's exit may be yours." Story 12. I'm a flight attendant. You develop a sixth sense for who's going to be a problem the minute they walk on the plane. On this flight, it was a kid in designer sweats and loafers, maybe 19. Big noise-canceling headphones. Tiny dog in an illegal designer carrier, filming everything on his phone. Boarding pass says 2A, first class. He snaps his fingers at me as I help an older lady with her bag. "Hey, protein meal?" My assistant added it. "And the dog only eats boiled chicken, so get that sorted." I tell him we don't do custom dog catering at 30,000 feet. He rolls his eyes and says, "This is first class, not Spirit. My dad owns half the planes on this route." Throughout boarding, he keeps wandering into the aisle to vlog. He points the camera at economy and says, "POV, peasants shuffling to the back," then laughs. Captain calls back, "We're already tight on departure time. We need everyone seated." I gently tell him to sit down, phone off airplane mode. He smirks. "Relax, I fly private all the time. Rules are suggestions." I give the standard federal regulations speech. He loudly announces, "They can't actually arrest you for a phone, guys. That's just fear marketing." Behind him, someone in a blazer and baseball cap in 2C quietly keeps reading. I clock him as another first-class passenger and move on. We push back. Safety demo starts. Kid stands up to get a better angle for his vlog. That's it. Captain taxis back to the gate. Gate agent comes on with airport security. "Sir, you're being removed from this flight for non-compliance." He loses it. "Do you know who my father is? I'll have your jobs. We sponsor this airline." He gestures to 2C. "My dad is literally on this flight." The guy in 2C finally looks up, takes off his cap. Same cheekbones. Same eyes. Just older, more tired. "Not today," he says quietly. Security hesitates. "Sir, is this your son?" The man confirms. "And you should absolutely remove him. Send me the report, please." You could have heard a pin drop. Rich kid's face goes through all 5 stages of grief in 10 seconds. "Dad, what are you doing?" "We have the Aspen House." His dad cuts him off. "We also have decades-old contracts with this airline. You think I'm risking a federal incident because you want content?" Security leads him off, still sputtering. As we finally take off, without him, the man in 2C presses the call button. "I'm so sorry," he tells us. We've clearly failed somewhere. Hours later, as we're landing, my colleague shows me something on her phone. A comment on one of Rich Kid's old vlogs, left minutes ago. From Dad's official account. "This is the last trip you take on my dime. Hope your followers can buy you a ticket." Guess private jets have a boarding process too. It's called growing up. Story 13. I work banquet staff for one of those fancy hotel ballrooms that only ever host weddings and charity galas. This one was a fundraiser for the City Children's Hospital. Black tie, silent auction, the whole thing. They'd set up an art wall with pieces donated by friends of the hospital. Most were what you'd expect. Safe landscapes, abstract blobs, one overly intense Jesus. Then there was this odd little painting, a city street at night done in thick, messy strokes. Not pretty, but it had something. The card under it read, "Donated anonymously. Enter Cassidy. She's 22, daughter of the hospital's biggest donor. Shows up late in a dress that probably cost my car. Martini already in hand, making sure every photographer catches her candids. She drifts over to the art wall with a pack of other rich kids. I'm nearby refilling water. She points at the city painting and laughs. Who let that in? It looks like a child's finger painting. Why is it priced at 10 grand? Her friend goes, anonymous donor, maybe some broke artist hoping a rich old man will feel bad. They all snicker. One of them suggests moving it closer to the bathroom so at least it'll match the vibe. They have no idea the janitor, Mr. Ramos, is on the other side of the partition, straightening tablecloths. He freezes for a second, then keeps working, face blank. Later in the night, the hospital director takes the stage to introduce a very special surprise donation. Apparently, a famous local painter, someone whose work I've only ever seen in magazines, had agreed to let one of his early pieces be auctioned anonymously, with all proceeds going to expand the NICU. He gestures to the art wall. You may not recognize it from his current style, he says, but that cityscape was painted when he was still working nights here. As a janitor, spotlight hits the ugly painting. He continues. He told me this hallway was his view every evening. He said this hospital was the first place that made him feel both invisible and hopeful at the same time. The crowd murmurs. I look over at Mr. Ramos. He's standing as still as a statue, eyes shining. The director grins. And because he couldn't be here tonight, he asked me to pass along a message to the staff who knew him back then. Tell Luis, I never forgot who gave me extra breaks to sketch by the back door. Heads swivel to Mr. Ramos. Bidding starts at 10 grand and rockets up. 30, 50, 80. Cassidy, suddenly realizing how this looks, lifts her paddle at 90, cheeks burning. Someone in the back, turns out it's a former patient's parent, raises to 100. Hammer drops. After, I see Cassidy approach Mr. Ramos, who is still in his faded uniform, now with donors shaking his hand. I didn't know you knew him, she stammers. He gives her a polite smile. Miss, you didn't need to know I knew him to know you shouldn't laugh at someone's work. Later that week, the hospital unveils the expanded NICU plans. The plaque on the wall doesn't have Cassidy's last name on it. It has Mr. Ramos's, and a tiny print of a messy, glowing city street. Story 14. I used to coach a semi-pro esports team. We were good but broke. 5 guys living in a cramped house, playing on used gear, eating instant noodles. Our main sponsor was a peripherals company run by an old-school businessman who didn't really get gaming but liked numbers. He had one condition. His son, Blake, got a spot on the roster. Blake rolled up in a rented Lamborghini the first day of boot camp. Gucci slides, custom jersey with his gamer tag, and owner's son printed under it. He'd brag non-stop about how we were basically NPCs in his career story. If I pop off on stream, Dad pumps more money in, he'd say. If I don't, I'll just start my own org. You guys can apply. The problem was, he sucked. Mechanically okay, but no teamwork, no discipline. He'd throw scrims to chase flashy plays, then blame the support. Somebody peel for me. I'm the brand. I fought to bench him for our regional qualifier. He whined to his dad. Dad said if Blake didn't start, the money dried up. So we put him in. Last map. Match point to qualify for the international stage, the biggest thing any of us had ever had a shot at. We're winning. Enemy Nexus at 10%. All we need is for Blake to back off and not die while we take the last fight. He sees an opportunity for a montage clip under their tower. Ignores the call, dives, gets instantly deleted. Ace. Enemy team runs it down mid and wins. We lose the tournament. Months of work gone in seconds. Blake slams his headset screaming about noobs and lag and scripted brackets. He storms off stage, shoving a camera guy. Clips of his tantrum hit Twitter before we're even back in the practice room. We're sitting there in silence, careers basically dead. Then the sponsor walks in. He doesn't look mad. He looks embarrassed. I watch the VOD, he says, and the interview, and the clips. Blake launches into a rant about how the team doesn't play around him. His dad holds up a hand. Son, I've poured money into this team. I don't care that you lost. I care that when you lost, you showed everyone who you are. He turns to us. I also watched your comms. You 4 tried to win with him. You were calm when he threw. You held it together. He takes a breath. Sponsorship isn't charity. It's investment. So here's what I'm doing. My company's contract with the org continues. If Blake steps down from the roster, immediately, you could feel the air change. Blake thinks it's a bluff. You can't do that. I'm your son. His dad's voice cracks a little. Exactly why I should. You don't learn anything if you never lose what you gamble. He looks at me. Coach, I'm giving you full control. Build the team you think can actually win. And if you'll have me, I'd like to sponsor you, not my kid's ego. Next split, we qualified with a new 5th. Some shy 17-year-old grinder from solo queue who showed up with a duct-taped keyboard. In our first game on stage, chat spammed, "Where's owner's son?" Our new player typed in all chat, "Benched IRL." Story 15. I live in a condo complex that's half young families, half retirees, and exactly 1 unit owned by a very rich couple who bought it as a city crash pad for their 20-year-old son, Ryan. Ryan treated the place like a hotel he'd inherited. He'd blast music at 3 a.m., park his sports car across 2 visitor spots so the doors don't get dinged, and treat the HOA president like his personal concierge. The last straw was the pool. Our pool has simple rules: no glass, no parties over 8 people, and kids must be accompanied by an adult. It's mostly used by exhausted parents after work and retirees doing water aerobics. One Saturday, Ryan shows up with about 15 friends, arms full of glass beer bottles and a Bluetooth speaker. Lifeguard is off that day, so it's just them and some neighborhood kids splashing quietly at the shallow end. I'm there with my niece, Mia, who's 5 and has floaties bigger than her torso. Ryan takes one look at the kids and says, "Ugh, did we wander into a public pool?" Then, louder, to the parents, HOA said this place was exclusive amenity. Didn't realize they meant daycare. He cranks the music, glass bottles everywhere. A toddler nearly steps on a broken shard when one bottle tips and cracks. I ask them to clean it up and turn it down. He smirks. Take it up with management, man. My mom basically is the board. We pay more in dues than your unit's worth. Plot twist. His mom was HOA president. Heavy emphasis on was, because while he's mouthing off, little Mia is sitting on her towel, carefully reading the laminated pool rules sign. She's very serious about rules. She tugs my hand and whispers, "It says glass is not allowed." And I learned at school if grown-ups don't follow the rules, we tell a different grown-up. She marches over to the small group of retirees playing cards under the umbrella, one of whom is the HOA treasurer, and loudly announces, "Excuse me, those teenagers are breaking your rules and there is broken sharp." Retirees are the final boss of community politics. By Monday, there's an emergency HOA meeting. Someone has circulated phone pics of the broken glass, the crowd size, and Ryan's bright red solo cup perched under the no alcohol line. Everyone shows up. Parents with strollers, seniors, even the usually apathetic young professionals. After 40 minutes of people airing every grievance about Ryan and, by extension, his mom's selective enforcement, someone motions for a recall vote on the HOA president. They have the numbers. By the end of the night, Ryan's mom is out. The new president? The treasurer who watched Mia read the sign. First order of business. Pool access is now tied to a fob system. Violations mean your fob gets shut off. Guess whose fob gets deactivated for 90 days? When Ryan storms down to the office to complain, the new president just points to a printout of the photo, his own reflection in the no glass sign, beer bottle in hand. "Rules are for everyone, sweetheart," she says. "Even people whose parents pay more in dues." That evening, I take Mia to the pool. It's calm, quiet. She paddles around proudly. At one point, she looks up at the big white sign and says, "If I learn more rules, can I be president too?" In that moment, I realized the richest kid at the pool wasn't the one with the sports car.